The Spotlight brought to you by Beacon Plumbing.
Good evening and welcome to The Spotlight. I'm David Rose, and we begin tonight with the crime that disturbed and upset so many people this week. The random murder of a pregnant woman in downtown Seattle. Police say the shooter opened fire on her and her husband with no provocation. They were stopped in their car while driving to the restaurant they own. As The Spotlight's Alejandra Guzman reports, friends and family are showing their support while city leaders grapple with returning a sense of safety to the streets.
As you walk past a Berea next to Pike Place Market, there's a numbness, a feeling of sorrow and grief. But it's this message taped to the door: God bless Aina Kwan and baby Kwan. Seattle loves you, forever in our hearts and minds, forcing some to stop and reflect as flowers in their honor line its entrance, asking for prayers. Others, just sorry this loss happened.
A mom and a baby were killed. A husband that was impacted by that same level of violence.
The intersection of 4th and Lenora, forever marked by a horrific crime. Sung Kwan was in the car with his wife Aina. She was 32 weeks pregnant with their daughter. Together, waiting for the green light when court documents say Cordell Marie Scoosby fired several shots at them. These documents made it clear there was no prior interaction between them. A random act of violence.
We have a suspect in custody. However, no amount of justice will bring that family whole again.
Friends of the Kwans sharing this picture of them with their 2-year-old son, Sajin, of happier times, now memories. They shared a few details in a fundraiser to help lay Aina to rest. As shots rang out, Sung instinctively embraced his wife, according to loved ones. They say he tried to shield her from the bullets. When the gunfire stopped, he noticed she was shot and frantically tore his clothes to stem his wife's bleeding. Autopsy results confirm she died of several gunshots, which hit her lung, spine, and head. Doctors delivered their daughter. Friends say Sung was able to hold her, but she died moments later. Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz says this tragedy impacts not just the greater community, but the Korean community, and is working with other members to keep everyone safe.
We are also running our violent crime strategy as we enter the summer months, and working with community and putting our officers in the right places where we believe the shootings might be occurring. We want to prevent and intervene, but we also want to focus on enforcement.
Mayor Bruce Harrell expressing his condolences in a statement which says in part, "This never should have happened. This tragedy is the result of the fact that there are too many guns on our streets, in this city, and in this country that allow individuals to make split-second decisions that can have devastating consequences. The fact of the matter is that there was a gun which had been reported stolen in the hands of someone who should have never had one. The epidemic of gun violence is causing irreparable harm to our communities, and it's unacceptable."
To learn more about this case or to donate to the family's GoFundMe page, just head to our website, fox13seattle.com. Well, Kent police need your help with another shocking crime, the shooting of an 8-year-old boy earlier this week in the middle of the afternoon. It happened on Monday while he was riding in the car with his mom, a toddler, and a baby. Kent police say they were in this blue Mustang when it happened near Southeast 236th Street and 104th Avenue just before 5:45 p.m. The boy is still recovering from his wounds. If you have any information, especially video or photos, you can upload those anonymously to Crime Stoppers through the P3 Tips app on your cell phone. Crime Stoppers is offering a cash reward of up to $1,000 for any information that leads to an arrest. Less than 6 months after a methadone clinic opened in Linwood, there are moves to potentially limit more of them from moving into the city. Under an emergency ordinance passed in April, the city of Linwood has temporarily stopped accepting applications for substance abuse outpatient clinics. This week, the Linwood City Council heard from the public on the issue, and council members faced a packed room. The Spotlight's Nia Wong was there as well.
Linwood City Council had 60 days to hold its first public hearing since passing a moratorium on accepting applications for substance abuse outpatient clinics.
We're going to have a moratorium. We're going to look at, find the facts, find out what the problem was last time, and what is it that we can do better this time.
A majority of those who went up to the podium and on Zoom Monday night were against this moratorium being enacted in the first place.
It is just people going into those facilities, getting a pill, meeting with their counselor, getting some job recommendations, having coaching.
Washington Representative Lauren Davis pointing out recent Washington legislation could get in the way.
It's my opinion that your moratorium will soon be unlawful. The legislature passed Senate Bill 5536, and that bill amends RCW 36.70A.200, and that RCW, we add specifically opioid treatment programs to that RCW as an essential public facility.
This 6-month moratorium gives City Council time to craft legislation in accordance to Washington state laws, and where they feel future substance abuse outpatient clinics will be allowed within Linwood.
We don't want it right next to kids. And I know that we have the argument, well, these people, they just come there, they get their drugs, and they leave. You know, I don't want to take any chances.
Council members admitting this emergency ordinance was in reaction to the first and, so far, only methadone clinic opening in Linwood in January.
So far, have there been any issues with that current treatment center?
Not to our knowledge. We stay in touch with the police department to monitor and to look at any complaints that we receive. Since the clinic has opened, we have not received any direct complaints regarding that clinic.
City Council voted for the 6-month ordinance, which can be extended up to a year with additional requirements to show a work plan. But so far,
we anticipate to have legislation adopted within the first 6 months, though.
That was Nia Wong reporting. The next update on this moratorium is expected in July, and before the moratorium expires, community members will get another and final chance to speak out at the second public hearing in September. In Tacoma, there's pride in support of the LGBTQIA+ community. But for some people, it's pride they don't want to see in their neighborhoods. Their pride flags have been stolen, as the Spotlight's Frankie Thompson shows us.
Anytime there's a hate motivation, it's a concern.
Police say 9 pride flags were stolen from homes over the weekend. Detectives say each case is a crime of hate, now being investigated as malicious harassment.
If people are going to be this bold to go and commit these crimes against residents, who knows what the next step is going to be. We're not going to stand for it, and we're going to investigate these crimes.
Police say all 9 cases happened in North Tacoma, but advocates say it's an issue happening in other states too, like in South Jordan, Utah, where surveillance video shows a thief snatching a pride flag from a home last week, and in Omaha, Nebraska, where thieves are caught on camera twice, stealing flags and burning them this month and in April.
A lot of the hate crimes that go against the queer community aren't documented because it's not reported, because there hasn't been a lot of traction with police departments in the past. So we're trying to move forward.
Moving forward, the Rainbow Center in Tacoma is now partnering with TPD to address these crimes of hate.
Resource for the community members who may not feel comfortable going to Tacoma Police with the information. They have another partner that they can reach out to say, hey, I have information about this.
As detectives investigate each case, directors at the Rainbow Center say these crimes of hate prove that more advocacy and education is needed.
I really do believe that most of the lack of support is just coming from a lack of understanding. And so a big piece of my job is just demystifying things, providing the proper information. We're gonna see that always. There's always people that don't understand and that don't support, but that's not the majority. There's not room for that here in Tacoma.
The police are asking for the public to review their home surveillance video in case one of these crimes was caught on camera. They're encouraging others who had their flag stolen to report it right away. A therapeutic boarding school advertised as one of America's best for troubled teens is now accused of letting a Snohomish County girl die in agony.
This was straight up neglect and abuse to Taylor.
When we return, find out how 17-year-old Taylor Goodridge spent her final days at the Diamond Ranch Academy. The disturbing claims made in the family's lawsuit are drawing new attention to what's known as the troubled teen industry. A Snohomish County family is fighting to shut down what they're calling a troubled teen treatment facility in Utah after their daughter collapsed and died there. We first told you about Taylor Goodridge in January. She was only 17, just weeks away from coming home. Now the Spotlight's Alejandra Guzman reports on a new lawsuit backed by the findings of a state investigation which has been filed against the Diamond Ranch Academy. It claims the school failed the teen, neglecting to give her the right medical care.
For Taylor Goodridge's family, the Snohomish River always brings back a flood of memories.
She always had a smile, even when she was a baby.
Climbing trees, riding horses, and spending time on the water with her family. At 17, Taylor enjoyed the newfound freedom of becoming a young adult.
Oh my God!
Getting her ears pierced, dancing in recitals. But among the good, there was also bad.
She was having some problems, and there was an incident which she finally realized that she needed to get help.
Beginning in October of 2021, she was enrolled at the Diamond Ranch Academy in southern Utah, a $12,000 a month therapeutic boarding school specializing in helping teens with emotional, social, educational, and behavioral issues. On its website, the ranch claims to be America's leading teen therapeutic boarding school. Its academic program is fully accredited. Its therapists are with the students day in and day out. And they're supported by an on-campus team of various experienced licensed medical professionals who, quote, aim to treat every student like our son or daughter.
I thought I was doing what was best for my daughter. I should have just let her come home.
A little over a year later, Taylor's health took a sudden turn. The timeline laid out by investigators with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services indicates Taylor first went to staff on December 9th, 2022, complaining of back pain and difficulty breathing, and was later crying and groaning in pain. But Alan Mortensen, the Goodrich family attorney, says Diamond Ranch Academy did very little to help Taylor. In court filings, he claims she was told by staff members to take an aspirin and suck it up, even as her symptoms became worse.
For at least 7 days, she's listed there as vomiting, and everyone knew it. It got passed along, and no one did anything.
State investigators say in the days before her death, Taylor vomited at least 7 times in 11 hours.
The pain and agony that my daughter went through
is something Dean can't bear to imagine.
No 17-year-old should go through that.
Scheduled calls home.
The Zoom meeting clicked on. No Taylor.
Canceled. As Christmas approached, Taylor's condition became even worse. Autopsy results showed Taylor was in the late stages of peritonitis, a potentially fatal internal infection which usually requires rapid treatment with antibiotics.
It's not like she could call the police. It's not like she could call family services. She wasn't even allowed to call her parents.
On December 20th, Dean's phone rang. It was Diamond Ranch Executive Director Ricky Diaz saying his daughter had collapsed.
I thought she fainted, not my daughter was passing. And then less than 30 minutes later, calls back and says she's gone.
Devastated by the loss of his daughter, now Dean is on a mission to get answers. Answers that former staff member Rachel Goodrich can provide. She knew Taylor and saw firsthand Taylor's health deteriorate over the last few weeks.
She had thrown up and then she collapsed in her own vomit, and she was laying in her own vomit, passed out.
Upset by the events that led up to Taylor's death, Rachel left Diamond Ranch Academy. She also helped the state of Utah with their investigation into the academy.
They made it sound like it was an accident, but if you were actually there with her, you know that Taylor needed help.
Fox 13 reached out to Diamond Ranch Academy, who says out of respect for student privacy, federal and state laws, they cannot respond to any allegations regarding Taylor's case. Their statement reads in part, "We can say that there are many bullet points in your email and allegations in the lawsuit that are demonstrably false. DRA will continue to fully and transparently cooperate with all appropriate agencies. DRA looks forward to presenting the facts in court." As memories of Taylor linger in their minds, Dean and his sons wear their hearts on their sleeves and pain on their chest. They're ready to fight.
It's like a ticking time bomb. When is it going to happen again?
The family lawsuit accuses Diamond Ranch Academy of neglect, child abuse, and false imprisonment in Taylor's death. The Goodriches say they won't stop until they get justice for Taylor.
Where did they help my daughter? They put her in a box. That's how they sent her home to me.
After the DHHS investigation in January, Diamond Ranch Academy's license was put on probation, blocking the school from enrolling new students. The school was given 4 citations, one specifically for, quote, failing to provide and seek necessary medical care for an ill client who died several days later. In March, the Department of Licensing lifted its restrictions once again, allowing the school to accept new students. A low blow for Taylor's family. Meantime, Hurricane police say their investigation is ongoing, as is the family's court case. For the Spotlight, I'm Alejandra Guzman.
Still ahead.
This is setting a precedent. There aren't any other related cases of a state issuing hundreds of thousands of vacations and refunds at one time.
Millions of dollars could go back into the pockets of men and women charged with crimes on a law that the court later overturned. We'll explain what the Blake Refund Bureau is after the break. Well, you're looking at a photo of gasoline pouring out of a car in Everett. Police say 2 suspects were drilling into tanks off Baker Street, and they were caught red-handed. They were quickly arrested and booked into the Snohomish County Jail for theft and malicious mischief. Everett police say it was outstanding teamwork between alert witnesses who notified them and officers who responded. Well, just last week, we told you about a man who had someone siphoning gas out of his car at the Everett Park and Ride, leaving it on empty.
Make it to the station on what little I had in there, and then I start filling it up, and I hear all this dripping and eventually gushing out the bottom of my car. Looked, and yeah, all the gas I just put in there was just pouring out the bottom, and someone had drilled a hole in my gas tank.
According to the National Association of Convenience Stores, 1 in 4 gas station owners says they've seen a rise in gas thefts since March. For months, we've been talking about the fallout from the Blake decision, a 2021 move by the courts that made the state's drug law unconstitutional. Much of the focus was on the long fight in Olympia to pass a new drug law that's going to go on the books in July. But there are other key issues that need to be talked about. People were behind bars who shouldn't have been. Not to mention, there have been millions of dollars in fees and fines paid out to people convicted on drug crimes, crimes that were now considered unconstitutional. The Spotlight's Matthew Smith reports on a first-of-its-kind program to issue thousands of refunds to those individuals.
In a word, the Blake Refund Bureau will be unprecedented. We're talking about the state giving back millions of dollars to men and women for past convictions that a court later found to be unconstitutional. And here's the thing, this will also include people who've served or paid fines in the past for pot convictions. This is a way for people who already have paid into a system to now get their money back.
To date, a little over $8 million has been paid by the municipal, district, and superior courts on LFO refunds.
As Robin Zimmerman explains, courts have been on the front lines of the fix for the Blake decision the past 2 years. But with an estimated 300,000 past convictions, the legislature, through a series of bills, created, then funded an all-new bureau meant to spearhead returning millions of dollars in cash to past convicts whose crimes never should have been on the books.
Yes, we don't want people sitting in prison longer than they should be if they've got this unconstitutional conviction.
Courts were busy outside of the money issue. After all, as Skagit County Superior Judge Laura Rakelmy explains, they've been hit with a barrage of cases where people were sitting behind bars. That's separate from the cash question.
There wasn't even a way to figure out how many people were going to be impacted by it, but we knew it was a lot.
Since then, we're told individuals being held on Blake and Blake-only charges have been let go. Now the focus of reimbursing or refunding fees tied to the unconstitutional law is moving into overdrive. Which brings us back to the Blake Refund Bureau. The work will happen here, inside the administrative office of the courts. Staff here will work with roughly $50 million allocated by Olympia's legislatures to put money back in the hands of those who paid it out. Refund requests will be submitted online in a soon-to-launch portal.
So for individuals that are curious if this impacts them, right? If they want to talk to someone, if they know they have a Blake-related conviction, they can go to the courts where the conviction was issued, or if they don't want to go that route yet, they can talk to Office of Public Defense has a designated Blake hotline. This is historic. To our knowledge, this is setting a precedent. There aren't any other related cases of a state issuing hundreds of thousands of vacations and refunds at one time.
Now, a key thing that we have to point out here, before you can get a refund, you have to have your charges vacated. and there's going to be some confusion on whether or not these convictions have been vacated. So we've got a full web story over at fox13seattle.com. We've included a hotline and an email address that you can reach out to find out whether your past conviction falls under the Blake decision and whether or not it has already been vacated. You can start that process by looking up the information at fox13seattle.com.
Still ahead on the Spotlight, strong words from a local police chief about the current state of our justice system in King County. A local law enforcement leader who has served as the police chief in 2 South King County cities is getting ready to retire. Ken Thomas started his career as a cadet at the Olympia Police Department. He will end it almost 37 years later as the Des Moines police chief. He was hired on as a patrol officer in Kent in 1989, and he worked his way up to police chief. The city of Des Moines hired him to run their department in 2018. Among his many accomplishments, Chief Thomas created a crisis response unit with mental health workers joining officers on the street. I was honored to MC his retirement celebration at the Des Moines Beach Park Auditorium. And as he prepares for the next chapter of his life, I asked him about the current state of justice in King County.
We've completely lost our focus on victims, and we're calling, in many of these meetings I attend, the offenders, the suspect, they're victims because they're addicted to drugs and they're the victims. And really on that, David, I got to call BS, because the reality is the victims are the hardworking, tax-paying citizens that get their car stolen, their house broken into, and their businesses broken into and stuff destroyed by people who aren't being held accountable.
Chief Thomas says his immediate plans after retiring include a fishing trip to Alaska. The city has narrowed down their search for a new police chief to 3 candidates and should be making an announcement soon on his replacement. We wish Chief Thomas all the best in his retirement, and we thank you for your service. That's all the time we have on this edition of The Spotlight. Until next week, be smart and stay safe.